Sometimes we make facial expressions and we're not able to express in our face what we're actually feeling in our hearts. I want to share with you in this video how you can relax your body when you see that face while talking, or when you make that face while listening. And as I give you this tool, I want you to take some notes because it's going to help you to improve the way that you show up in your relationships. Now, with young people in particular, sometimes they are making facial expressions because they don't understand. Here's the thing. It doesn't matter how tall they are. It doesn't matter how heavy they are. They're still young. Their brains are still developing. So you don't want to accuse them of feeling a certain way or behaving a certain way because they're making a certain facial expression. If you are of the mindset that a person who's looking at you a certain way feels a certain way about you, or they're looking at you like this while they're listening because they disagree, you, my beloved person, are misguided. Everybody's face doesn't reflect what they're actually feeling. How do I know this? Just being alive, just doing the work in myself and with other people. And so many people ask me, well, Ashley, how can I make this match what's happening here? I'm so glad you asked. That's what we're going to talk about. The first thing I want you to do is to bring awareness to your face while you're making this type of expression. What do you feel? I feel my lips and my nose scrunched up. And it's taking a lot of energy to actually hold that face. And research shows that it takes more muscles in your face to frown than it does to smile. Okay? When you're listening to information that sounds contrary or unwanted or uncomfortable, whatever it is, I want you to put your hands in a position that holds you. Not to defend or deflect or ward off, but just to hold yourself in that moment and soften your gaze. As you soften your gaze, I want you to listen with your eyes. Listen with your eyes. Now, the person who's talking to you is going to help them while they're speaking, but they may get caught off guard if you've never done this before, and it's like, wait, why are you looking at me like that? And you're like, stop looking at me. It's too intense. One of my friends actually told me I have an intense gaze. Okay, so I try to soften that, right? But it helps when listening because the eyes can be very expressive. And this is where our power comes in, wonderful adults, when helping young people. Joy helps us to condition our brain for greater outcomes. But it starts with peace. It starts with security. When you have that emotional security and you tap into joy as your resource, you can go in so many more positive directions than if you're in the place of worry, frustration, irritation, anger, sadness. Those are lower vibrational emotions, okay? So when you're listening, again, hold yourself, hold your hands, right? Hold your hands from a place of calmness. This is a self-soothing activity. Hold your hands, maybe put them near your stomach. And I say, I'm resting it on my belt, okay? And I'm relaxing my shoulders and I'm listening with my eyes. Now, if I hear something that is, again, contrary or unwanted, I listen and I'm listening to what they're saying. Listen for what they're saying and hold your interpretation. This is really important because when we hold our interpretation, we get to collect more information on what they actually said, not what we thought they said or what we heard. It's very important. If you want to improve your relationships, improve your interpretations of what's happening to you in those relationships. Okay. So you're listening, you're holding your hand or you're holding your wrist, you're reminding yourself that you're safe. You want to have body language that reminds you that you're safe, that you can listen, that you're not being defensive. And you listen with your eyes and you listen to what they're saying. And if they are in the habit of sharing a lot, you can just put your hand on their hand if you have that relationship with them, or if you put your hand on their shoulder, say, can we pause for a moment? Now, when you say, can we pause for a moment? That can actually help the person to come back to the present moment, because they may be in the habit of sharing a lot and they actually benefit from pausing as well. Okay? Now, here's a recap of what we've talked about. We want to hold ourselves in such a way, okay, that soothes us, that reminds us that we're present in this moment. And then we listen with our eyes. We listen to what they're saying. We hold our interpretation. If they're sharing, we listen, stay with them. And then for your benefit, like processing what they're saying, and for theirs, say, can we pause for a moment? What I hear you saying is this true? Or did I hear that correctly? Did so-and-so say this? And it helps us to create a conversation again. When you do these activities, very simple relational strategies, you are helping yourself and the person you're listening to, particularly that young person, to remain in the green zone. Now, that young person may get into the yellow zone just by retelling the story. And a lot of times we can, I don't want to say re-traumatize, because the word is overused now to where it's just like, if someone doesn't like you, that's trauma. We got to slow down on that. But it can send a certain informational shock to the body. And so we want to just recognize that, okay? And it puts us in the yellow zone. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I want you to look at a visual of the autonomic nervous system response. There's the ventral vagal, where we feel connected and ready to learn. There's the parasympathetic. I almost forgot. There's parasympathetic, which is fight, flight. Okay. Fawn, which is people pleasing, which is also a fear response. And once you've expended all the resources of being in the red zone, you go to shutting down the dorsal vagal response. Okay. And that's normally freeze. Okay. Where it's just like, I've done everything. I'm immobilized at this point. So you want to remain relational, and that's how you can move from, okay? Now, if you're that person, you say, Ashley, I'm glad that you said this. Drop a comment so I know who you are, and we can create more content that supports you in being the best you can be and getting the most out of your relationships. Because this is the thing, adult-child interactions are the most important primary relationships for children. Because how an adult responds to that child determines their attachment style, determines how they seek love, friendship, what's important to them, how they dream, what type of jobs they go into. It takes such, it has such an impact on who that person becomes. And this is important to me because I am the daughter of a woman and a man, of a mother and a father who were victims of child abuse. And it was hard for them. And it dictated how they showed up in the world. It dictated how they showed up in the world. And in my observation of them as a young person, I wanted to, from a very young age, help the adults feel more loved within themselves and by each other. But now I know it starts when we're young. It starts when we're young. Now we're going to bring our awareness back to our face like this. If you're a person who makes assumptions about someone's facial expression when they're like this, stop assuming. I want you to ask, what's on your mind? Simple. What's on your mind? And then they'll be like, oh, I was just thinking about when I was at the mall with so-and-so and this person came up to me. In that moment, you'll recognize, oh, that facial expression is not associated with me. And then when you ask questions, you can have more clarity on who you are engaging with. Because if you assume that that facial expression is associated with you, it may change the dynamic of the relationship. Why? Because you changed. Because you had an interpretation that changed the way you interact with that person. We got to ask questions. Sometimes when we're confused, we stop asking questions. We make assumptions. Sometimes we see the same type of behavior and we want that person to change. we're just like, we're done asking questions. That's another topic. Okay, but before you get to that part, because that's when you're in the red zone with that person, you're just like, I've done everything I can do, I cannot. Okay, and if that person is your child, I want you to check out a video I did on loving the child who is labeled hard to love, because these things do come up for us. And so you want to ask questions about the facial expressions that you're seeing. Here's my last point. Sometimes with young people, they're trying to understand what's being said to them, and they are judging themselves for what they can do while they listen to you give the direction. This is so profound. I know this from family coaching, okay, and from observing life and living life. They're judging themselves while they observe and while they hear your direction. So they have this face like, oh gosh, can I actually do this? This is inferior for this. I'm not going to be able to do that because so-and-so's asking me this. Can I do that right now? All that comes up in their face. And you, caring adult, whether you're an educator, a social worker, a therapist, a coach, a mentor, a teacher, a parent, first educator, parent, you may be like, why are they looking like that? And you may go off on them because you see their facial expression. Don't do that. Let them show you that they heard you. Okay? And you can ask them, you know, what did you hear me say? Or what's that facial expression about? But do it from a calm place. And from there, you can keep the relationship in the green zone. I'm not saying you need to be in the green zone all the time, because you are going to go to yellow. You are going to feel like I'm on orange about to go to red. That's life. I'm not saying don't go there. Please, you have to modulate your stress levels, and you can't know this zone without that zone. Okay? But don't assume that there's a serious issue because a facial expression was made. I promise you that you will save your interaction with that child a lot of heartache if you let go of your interpretation or your assumption and ask questions. I bless you. I want the best for you, and I'll see you in the next video.